Hello everyone, welcome to Couch Potato. It's been a long time. There were some things I need to talk to you about, but I'm back with another podcast. Today I have with me Shashank Shekhar. So, Shashank, give your introduction. Before that, a small introduction from my side is he also has his podcast by the name Rant of the Giant, and it's an amazing podcast. It's something similar to mine, but I talk through characters and he just, talks raw. And amazing work, Shashank. And I've heard all your,
Thank you.
podcasts. So today, yeah, Shashank, go ahead with your introduction and then we'll proceed with the podcast.
So, hi guys. My name is Shashank Shekhar. I've been friends with uh, people call him Mayank Manku, but I prefer calling him Mr. Anand because that's how we bonded. So, yeah, I have been friends with Mr. Anand for like almost 3 years now.
Yeah,
3 years now.
yeah.
So, we've also been floor mates, if that makes any sense to people. But in
Corridor mates, in fact.
Yes, corridor mates, and in boys' hostel, it makes all the difference when you're corridor mates and the doors are always open. So
Yes,
that's how you really bond.
exactly.
So I'm a law student. He's
I'm an
1 year
engineering student,
senior.
but I don't think streams ever mattered in between us, right?
Never, never. The entire group that we had was like uh, the Assassin's Creed people would be able to relate. It was sort of a brotherhood that we
Yes.
had. So yeah, about my podcast, it goes by the name of Rant of a Giant. So I basically what Mr. Anand just said, that I have a tendency to just dive down a very deep rabbit hole, and yeah, that's the only dissimilarities, if I may say, that we have among our podcast, that he takes inferences, I do not. So that is something which Couch Potato has taught me, and I'm very thankful for that.
So yeah, today we are here, Shashank, me and you are here to talk about Uncle Frank and essentially the characters in it, right? So
Yep.
the three main characters that we have are Sophia Lillis, by the name she goes by. Yeah, her character's name is Beth Bledsoe, and then there's Frank Bledsoe. Paul Bettany has done an amazing job. We both have seen him as Vision, and we are already Marvel fans. But this is something very very different, and through this movie, I think we both would agree on this, that we know ki the spectrum of Paul's acting is huge. It's wide, very wide, and we could
Amazing.
never see this coming, right? Until we saw this
Never.
movie. And then
In
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
please go ahead.
there's just a minute, I just forgot the name.
Peter McDessie.
Yes, Peter Macdessie as Paul's boyfriend in this. Uh, Mostly called Wally in the movie. Okay, so first and foremost, it's about homosexuals and the homophobic nature of the society that goes with it. It's based in the 1970s, but it's highly relatable to this day, because homophobia is something that is very 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 difficult to eradicate, because people are still so conservative, right?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree because, and in fact, when you mentioned about Paul Bettany, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a series available on Netflix which goes by the name of the Unabomber, in which Paul Bettany has played a serial killer.
The
I mean,
what can you
the
repeat the name?
the Unabomber, Unabomber.
The Unabomber, okay.
So yes, so I will refrain from talking about the series because when it comes to, just like I said, I have a habit of whatever topic you get me started on, I have a habit of like diving
Yeah.
very deep down, and
Same.
you can call me the Tom Holland of the group. I cannot withhold spoilers, and if I start talking about something, so I would refrain from talking about anything. And guys, If you haven't watched Uncle Frank, you're missing on a charm. Please go
Exactly.
watch it.
So we'll break down the characters one by one. Let's start with Beth Bledsoe, Sophia Lillis. So my perception of Sophia Lillis was she is just seen as a kid in her house when she is 17, 18 years old. Okay, she's seen as a kid, and nobody really cares about her opinion. Nobody really cares about what she's talking about and things like that. People find her weird. That's how the movie starts. People find her weird and nobody's talking to her. And then we see a very candid introduction to Uncle Frank, very superficial, through the eyes of Sophia Lillis, like Beth Bledsoe, where she says that he's the only one that makes me smile and I love talking to him. So from there, we know that Uncle Frank is the only family member that Beth has that really talks to her and, I think I'll say, believes in shaping her mindset towards broadening. I mean, he sort of since childhood has been having conversations with her, and I think that's what helps her through the movie to continuously broaden her mindset, right? Unlike the family.
I couldn't agree less. I mean, initially when Beth Bledsoe goes, like, before she interacts with Uncle Frank, so we can see, like, although the left out Uncle Frank, how left out he felt through his entire life in Creekville, is not revealed later until the movie. So now we can see as Beth enters the house, there are two people, her sisters were standing there, and they pay her no heed. And then she goes inside, she tries to help someone with the dishes or something else. But then again, the only thing in the initial part of the movie, what Beth Bledsoe said, stuck with me was that he was the only one who would look me in the eye while talking to me.
Yes. Exactly.
So, because people have a tendency that if they do not want to talk to you, they will not look you in the eye.
Yeah, that is true. So that is what I meant by saying that Frank was the only one who sort of, believed in shaping her mindset through the right conversations. The rest of the people are shown as the ones who are always interested in gossiping about others. They don't really care about their self-development. All they care about is what other people think about them and how can you evade their bad perception, right? That is what goes on usually in the society around us too. So about Beth, through the movie, she goes to college first, and we see how Frank sort of interferes with her mindset of naming, right? Remember when he says that if you don't like the name Betty, change your name. And then she goes like, I can't just change my name. And today if someone tells me that if I tell someone I don't like the name Mayank, I want to change it, someone comes and tells me change your name, I'll be like, क्या बोल रहा है यार, पागल है क्या, कुछ भी बके जा रहा है, कितना फूक क्या है, कितना पी क्या है. That's what our mindset would be. And that's what Beth told too. And then Frank just says, it's your life, it's your choice, it's you and your name. So it's all about your individuality. That's what he's trying to tell her. Your name is a part of your individuality. And if you think Betty doesn't explain your individuality, then change your name to something that actually does. That's what he means by that dialogue, right?
Yes, exactly. And also, I don't know whether you noticed or not, when Frank suggested Liz and Betty suggested Beth. So she was not exactly appalled by Liz, but she did not want to keep Liz as a name. So she ended up choosing something which had Frank's suggestion as well as her suggestion in it, Elizabeth.
Yes. So, it was, it was like Frank was like, her actual name was Elizabeth, and people used to call her Betty. And then what happens is Frank tells her to go with the Liz part, and Beth says, "No, I like the last one better," and that is what she goes with. And Frank doesn't stop her, right? So
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
please go on.
Beth is sort of a daughter figure to Frank, right? Because if you see, Beth's own
Yeah,
father, is so ignorant of things, and is so ignorant of paying attention on a child's personality development, that Frank has taken it upon himself to actually develop Beth the right way. You know, I think it is reflected throughout the movie, through the stages, where everywhere when Beth challenges her thoughts, and her thought process, Frank is there to help her with it. It's not like spoon feeding, but he's there to hint that, okay, this is where you're wrong, and you could do this, right? You don't know it, but you could do this.
and also Beth's father figure, I thought, was also more than ignorant. He was reckless. I mean,
Yeah.
look at when Beth and Frank's first interaction occurred.
Hmm.
When when Frank asked Beth about her studies,
Hmm.
so she said a very specific thing that my father didn't want me roaming across the town half naked, and I'll get raped. And she also went on saying, and you know what else he said? He said, I deserve it.
Hmm.
So he was reckless in ignoring the fact that that kind of a statement from her own father, what kind of effect it might have on a child.
Yes.
Because since, and I am saying this from personal experience, that the only thing, like once you're a teenager and you have accomplished something in life, she straight all A's. She was a
Yes.
brilliant child at school. So everyone else was appraising her, most probably because uh, generally people who get good grades are generally appreciated by people around them.
Hmm.
And what her father said
Hmm.
would cancel out all the appreciation she ever got from outside.
That is true.
If I feel if I feel it wasn't for Frank,
Hmm.
she wouldn't have been able to go there. Like that brainstorming session that they had inside the house while everyone was outside the house for like 3-4 minutes. It is shown in the movie.
Yes.
I think that was the turning point for Beth, where she emotionally matures to some extent, where she realizes, because Frank said 2-3 very important things in those 4-5 minutes, which justify the entire movie. Like
Hmm.
if somebody watches those 3-4 minutes and somebody is asked to explain that uncle what was Uncle Frank, I could explain it in 3-4 lines. Firstly, once you get out of Creekville, you don't just only realize how small your world was, you also realize how big it can be.
Hmm.
And second was that the part that you said, you have two choices. You can either be what you want to be, or you can either be what these people allow you to be.
Exactly. True. He is, I think,
So the entire
yeah, carry on.
so the entire movie, I feel, was the answer to these two questions.
Yes, true. I mean, when we talk about Beth, right? When we talk about Beth, the entire movie was the answer to these two questions. And also, I like. Do you realize we cannot talk about Beth without talking about Frank? He was a very
We
essential.
absolutely can't.
Exactly, because Beth was at such a tender age. Remember when we joined college, matlab, when we just entered college, like
Yeah.
our minds were so flexible, है ना? क्योंकि we both come from Bihari families, conservative mindsets, right? So
Fauji and Bihari.
exactly. So like people can, I think people who come from our families can actually imagine what kind of a conservative and orthodox mindset we come from, right? Background we come
Mm-hmm.
from. So
Mm-hmm.
we were so conservative, deep down, but also we had allowed ourselves to have that flexibility as to when people give us new ideas, when people talk about new things, we listen to them and we'll learn, and that's how we'll grow, right? And that is what Beth
Yeah.
showed us. Beth was sort of a reflection of our time as we entered college, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she portrayed it very well, in my opinion, like
Yeah, the
perfectly.
curiosity she portrayed, like
Exactly.
it did not. It was very hard to figure out that it is an act. It felt
Exactly.
more like a it felt more like a documentary, that it is intentionally being filmed.
Yes.
And
One
also
thing
the
about
entire.
this movie is it never feels like you're watching a movie. It actually feels like you're watching an actual event happening in the 70s, which has been
Yeah,
documented and it's been shown to you in 2020. And then you start relating the facts that you see in 2020 to the facts that have been shown through the movie in the 1970s. So you still see the relatability between the two timelines, right?
the realism portrayed is off the charts. Like, even for 2021, if this movie, if somebody wants to generate awareness or not sympathy but empathy among people
Yeah.
about the changing times and changing structure of the society, this movie could be the game changer. Like, the way everything has been portrayed, one thing is that people generally consider homosexuality as a taboo.
They still do.
Uh, they still do, because firstly, it is being considered taboo just because some minority people consider it taboo, and the majority of the people are afraid to talk about it.
Exactly. Those
And that,
minority people have sort of, took it upon themselves to influence the other people in such a wrong and such a heavily wrong way that the majority that is not talking about it is scared of that minority, and hence they're not talking about it, right? They don't understand the power in themselves to go against that minority and start talking about it, right?
and also people are, it's not that people are not talking about it because they're afraid.
Hmm.
People are not talking about it because due to the controlled structure of the literature that they have,
Yeah.
nobody knows enough. And people who do are being shut out from everywhere.
Yeah, that I agree with. Yes.
Yeah. So people can only talk about something that they're aware of.
Exactly.
People are not aware, they do not seem to care just because they're not allowed to, like, engross themselves into these kind of literature, because people, the minorities that we're talking about, will people will defend their opinions against homosexuality on the basis of literary text, on the basis of literary debates, and the most dangerous of all, the religious text. You cannot
True.
you cannot argue with the religious text. That's a ticket to upstairs or downstairs.
Exactly.
So, and also in extreme, I do not mean to offend any religion, but I feel that some religions have varied stances on homosexuality. Because if you see in Islam,
Hmm.
Islam, it is death.
Wally, I think we'll come to that during Wally section. I think let's
Yeah,
leave it at this and let's discover that
yeah.
when we talk about Wally. So yeah, coming to Frank now. So we have seen how Frank was an influence on Beth, and her developing mindset in the right way. Now let's come to Frank. and talk about how, although he was the right influence on Beth, he still had to fight his own demons, which he was running away from almost the whole time. You know,
Mhm.
when it came to him being him, his family wasn't around, right? He was himself when his family wasn't around,
Mhm.
and he wasn't afraid of it, you know. And when it came to him being himself in front of his family, he failed miserably. Obviously, there were events
Yeah.
in his history, in his life history, that led him to, develop those insecurities. But then we also see that how he's a hypocrite, towards telling Beth to be herself and not able to be himself in front of his own family, right?
Mhm. And also, so guys, due to my habit
Hmm.
of like shutting out everything and just start ranting,
Yeah.
I use I use examples so
Yeah.
that I can convey the right impression onto you.
Yeah.
And please be informed that these examples may or may not involve Marvel and DC characters,
Sure, sure.
and these examples will be used metaphorically. I'm not using this example literally, so
Obviously, obviously.
do not give couch potato anything based on if I choose to call, let's say, Paul Bettany a character of RDJ. I do not mean to do that.
Obviously, I
So,
understand.
and I also feel that Paul Bettany, Iron Man 1, 2, 3,
Hmm.
Tony Stark, he has a realization. He shuts off the entire weapons division of the Stark Industries.
Yeah.
Then he starts working on his suit, and then whatever happens in Iron Man 1. Iron Man 2, maybe we can see Tony Stark during the mid of the movie in an existential crisis.
True.
And that existential crisis amplifies till the end of Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
और उस टाइम पे now I'm drawing a parallel between Paul Bettany, like Uncle Frank, and Tony Stark. What I noticed was whenever they were agitated, they went into a full-on panic mode.
Hmm.
And also when Tony Stark, at the end of Iron Man 3, when he throws the arc reactor away and he retrieves a screwdriver from the dump.
Yeah.
And as soon as he gets into the car and he said, "You can take away my toys, you can take away my house, but one thing that you cannot take away," it blacks out, and then in the background he speaks, "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
So as soon as he makes peace with what he is and not fight, we see a totally different Tony Stark afterwards. We see, I mean, almost, firstly, the suits were initially what they were portrayed was. In Iron Man 3, till the last Killian fight, Tony Stark said, "I needed a hobby." It was just so that he remains busy. Now those suits became a necessity. Firstly, he failed to acknowledge the suit as a part of him. Like, he thought he was Iron Man because of the suits.
True. I mean, we see that in the first movie towards the end when he says that I am Iron Man. He does it solely for public image of him being called a hero. He does it for fame, and he does it for his stocks and shares, obviously. The value of Stark Industries. It's all for those trivial reasons, like money, fame, and things which do not really matter in the long run, and they only give you momentary happiness, right? So he wasn't really talking about himself. He was just talking about an image in the people's head. Okay. And he was like, change your image about me. I'm not just a billionaire. I'm not just a playboy. I'm not just a philanthropist and all. I'm also Iron Man. And when he says the same statement of "I am Iron Man" in towards the end of the third movie, and at the end of End Game, they are very different. He has made
Yeah.
it a part of himself, and now he knows why he should identify himself as Iron Man in certain situations and as Tony Stark in other situations. So he knows that
Yeah.
Tony Stark and Iron Man are no different from each other. It's just one takes over the other based on whatever the scenario is. That's all.
And also coming back to the Uncle Frank
Of course,
character.
yeah.
So when we talk about Uncle Frank, it is from the very starting. Uncle Frank is a very mellowed out character until the
Yeah.
later part of the movie.
I mean,
It like
first half में पूरे time Uncle Frank was like sorted, शांत, literary person. I mean, he reads a lot of books. He's an English professor, for God's sake. I mean, the amount of literature he has read, the amount of knowledge that he has, right? So we are like, भाई ये बनना है. जैसे ही उसको दिखाते हैं पहली बार, I'm like, भाई ये बनना है, ठीक है life में. And I started reading books now. Okay, I've started reading books. So that's right. I agree. I agree on that.
because when what we are generally used to saying is that the protagonist of a movie, in order to familiarize with the audience, they have these narrow oscillations. Like,
Yeah.
although they do not deviate from the baseline, but they oscillate to some extent.
Yeah.
But as far as Uncle Frank is concerned, unless and until he receives the news of the departure of his father,
Yes.
we can see he's a very mellowed out character. There were instances where he was lured into conflict, firstly by Bruce, secondly by Wally during the breakfast scene.
Yeah.
We can see that response was, I would have expected him to some reaction, like anything, give me something, right? But the way he handled those two altercations were like mind blowing. And also the fact that, and then when the facade drops, when he receives the phone call from his mom,
Yeah.
that son, this has happened,
Yeah.
then we see the shit.
Yeah.
Then we see the shit. Then we see Uncle Frank for what he really is.
The most vulnerable self of Frank Bledsoe. That is what we see. So I think that is like his insecurities, have started to come in front of him, right, one by one, and the stability that he had, the clarity that he had throughout the first half, now starts to fade away. Fade away. I won't say fade away. I'll say starts to get clouded because of these insecurities. And that is why now we see his weaknesses slowly, developing and taking upon him. हावी होना जिसको बोलते हैं ना. So they have totally started to overshadow all his other good qualities, right? And now we are seeing a totally different take on Frank Bledsoe as to how he's handling things. First half of the movie was about our rational self, right? I mean, if we choose to identify ourselves with Frank, right? The first half, it was all about how rational we are usually, okay? When our deepest insecurities aren't questioned, we are very rational. We don't let our emotions get ahead of ourselves, okay, and get the best of us. And we usually take our time and take a step back, think about it, and then give a reaction. Usually this happens. But if someone talks about our deepest insecurities, right, it triggers us, just like it triggers Frank. So that relatability between him and all of us who are watching the movie, I think, that makes the realism of the movie even stronger. कि जैसे ही आपका वो जो डर है आपके दिल में हमेशा से, जो कोई एड्रेस नहीं करता और ना ही आप खुद को करते हो, राइट? यू डोंट एड्रेस इट योर सेल्फ ईदर. When the situation starts addressing it and you can't run away from it anymore, that is when your test starts.
Yep, exactly. So basically, you said everything I was wanting to say. So, so basically, in the first half,
Hmm.
we also what the director has done, and hats off to the writer.
Hmm.
I think the writer and the director are the same people.
Yes. I'll just a minute.
Alan something is his name.
Alan Ball. Yeah, that's his name.
Alan Ball, yes. The writer and the director are the same people. So the writing is like so catchy, so catchy. Firstly, they throughout the first half they show you how normal it is
Hmm.
to be different from
Yeah.
everyone around you.
Yeah.
And secondly, that once you reach a place, like suppose throughout the entire movie, the like especially the first part,
Hmm.
the Frank's character has been shown
Hmm.
to remain unfazed from dispute. It started off when Daddy Mac questioned his choice of gift.
Yes.
Then it came to the Bruce interaction on the staircases.
Yes.
Then it came to the Wally interaction on the kitchen table where they were having their breakfast.
Yes.
And then when he receives that news from home that his dad has passed away,
Yeah.
then we see the shift. Like every one of us, if I deny the fact that I do not have something which is logged very deep and I try to run away from it, I'd be lying to your face.
Exactly.
Everybody, like, if I want to be rhetoric, I'd rather put it in this way. Everyone has their demons.
Exactly.
We can either choose to confront it or choose to run away from it. So
Exactly.
the entire first half of the movie is being shown to be a scenario where how the false state of happiness or euphoria is attained when you choose to run from your demons, and how
Exactly.
short-lived it is.
Hmm.
The moment the facade falls, they're standing right in front of you, and now
Exactly.
you cannot run.
So, exactly. Uh, Frank, I think, portrays not just, I think, a homosexual, Frank's character not just portrays the difficulties that a homosexual man would face, but he talks for everyone who finds themselves not fitting in a group, right? I mean, somewhere or another, everywhere, someone or the other is like, okay, I don't fit anywhere. What is my place in
Mhm.
this group, or what is my place in the society, or what is my place in this world? I'm a little different, right?
It happens to all of us.
Exactly. Like suppose I'll tell you my case, right? So all of my friends are doing a job right now. Even my
Mhm.
juniors have started to do a job right now who have
Mhm.
started to pass out of engineering. Now I chose to sort of delay it because I wanted to try new things, right?
Mhm.
Now uh, that brings me to a question as to, okay, what am I doing? I mean, am I not fitting into a group, or am I just a little different? You know, uh, is my aim to fit into this group, or is my aim to actually work on myself? I mean, which one do I weigh more? ठीक है ना? ये confusion होता है बहुत बार, because कभी कभार I
Uh-huh.
find myself looking for jobs the whole day and not doing anything related to YouTube, short film, stand up, or anything, that I want to do. So दैट इज बिकॉज एक तो पीयर प्रेशर हो जाता है आदमी पे, राइट? वन इज द पीयर प्रेशर दैट ओके फक एवरी वन अराउंड मी इज डूइंग अ जॉब, एवरी वन अराउंड मी आर स्टार्टेड टू अर्न एंड आई एम नॉट अर्निंग, ओके? एंड देन
Mm.
माई पेरेंट्स आर लाइक,
Mm.
यू गो टू द जिम बट वॉट आर यू अर्निंग? लाइक तू कमा क्या रहा है, तू कर क्या रहा है लाइफ में? कुछ नहीं कर रहा है
That
तो
is
लाइफ
all
में,
it narrows down to.
एग्जैक्टली तू कुछ नहीं कर रहा है लाइफ
What
में,
you are earning.
या सो
Experience.
I try to confront that the whole day, every day. I try to confront that as to, okay, this is the way I am unique. I chose to try new things. I chose to work on my passion because I think I have time right now, right? And the others chose to either deny that or just go with what people are saying. I mean, personally, उन्होंने सोचा होगा कि okay, my passion is not feasible, so let's just do a job. That is one thing. That is one way of going about it. Or the other way would have been, okay, I have to do a job because there is no other way. That's all. I mean, they didn't think about their passion कि क्या मैं इसको monetize कर सकता हूँ. उन्होंने सोचा नहीं है, ठीक है. उनको बस जॉब दिखा, उन्होंने जॉब लिया और उन्होंने शुरू कर दिया करना, right? So that is how I see
And
myself different from the group. And that is why that one scene towards the end where Frank's mom accepts him the way he is touches me to my core, because I have somewhere or the other been looking for that acceptance in my family, right? I have been doing things very differently from what my friends are doing, right? And the same way, like what Frank's sexuality is to him, okay, are my career choices to me. That is how I relate to Frank. Yeah.
and also many people, like you said, you're pursuing your passion.
Yeah.
Many people confuse passion with the thing they are good at.
Yes.
I might be good at boxing, but boxing is not my passion. Passion is something which, even if you do not know, you are willing to put in the work to be good at.
Exactly.
That is what your passion is.
Yes.
Your passion is not something which you like, a gift from God, a flair for drawing, a flair for dancing, a flair for fighting. That is not passion.
Exactly.
Many people, once they discover something, they think they're good at it and they term it their passion. They do not choose to explore further because they have this flawed reasoning that if I'm good at it, it might be my passion.
Exactly.
And also, have you heard Eminem ka Legacy?
Yes, obviously.
The lyrics are so relatable.
Yeah. That is true.
Eminem, sometimes he just pricks on the right nerves and then he just leaves.
That is exactly what Uncle Frank did too. It hit the right nerves in us. So that was about Frank. Anything else you want to talk about him? I mean, he's a very deep character in my opinion. So if there's anything left.
I don't think so, because if you want me to talk, I can talk about Uncle Frank for like 3 hours.
Exactly. But we don't have that kind of time right now. So that was about Frank, right? And the way we identify ourselves with Frank as to when our deepest insecurities are questioned and our demons come right in front of us. There are times we cannot run away from it. We have to confront it.
And also, one more thing. Do you watch UFC by any chance?
I don't follow UFC, but I know some names. I have watched a few matches, and
John Jones.
I've heard him. I've heard about him. Yeah.
So there's this line which the commentator said when John Jones is like, I don't want to say famous, but he's like very unlucky because he gets in amazing talent. Like, he stepped in the ring when he was 19 years old, and now he's like late 30s, and he's been a champion since he was 21 years old.
Wow.
He's like, for decades, he's been fighting the best of the best of the best and winning.
Wow. Okay.
So once he was like DUI, because he likes to party and all.
Yeah.
And so when he was returning to his ring, the commentator said he said one thing which stuck with me, which was, it doesn't matter what happens to us. The only thing that matter is what we do when it happens to us.
Exactly.
So this, I think, summarizes Uncle Frank's character to some extent.
True. So, okay, that was about Beth and Frank. And now let's come to your personal favorite of this movie, Wall-E,
Uh,
right?
Wally.
So first things,
Guys, if you haven't watched it, you are in for a treat. Trust me. Wally's character is, you'll fall in love with Peter Mendes' acting. And I was like, holy fuck. So effortless. So effortless.
so
I,
I'll just say one thing about Wall-E, and you can continue to explain him because I think you have observed that character to an extent which I haven't. Okay, I'll admit that. So
uh-huh.
let's just say that Wall-E to me is a person who teaches us that people who are the most important to us will sometimes try to push us far away. Okay, and they will tell us they don't need us, they don't need our help. Okay, and they, I mean, we cannot help them. That's what they will tell us. But
Mhm.
Wally teaches us that instead of just agreeing with them and taking, 2 steps back from their life, get more involved. Okay,
Mhm.
and help them anyway, because when when the tide, uh, I mean, the tide gets higher and higher. When there's a crisis, okay, when there's a tsunami, the tide gets higher and higher. Okay, and then there is a
Mhm.
time when the tsunami is gonna come to an end. Okay, things are calming down,
Mhm.
and there is just devastation around, right? And you
Mhm.
see the after
Mhm.
effects, and when the after
Mhm.
effects start to kick in the
Mhm.
person who has pushed you away, okay, at that point the person will come and actually appreciate your efforts. Okay, and he will understand how much he
Mhm.
actually needed help instead of pushing us away. So Wally tells us, teach people that you do not need to push away the people who are important to
Mhm.
you and the people who can help you.
Mhm.
Always remember,
Mhm.
you are never alone.
Mhm.
You always have people to
Mhm.
go to. You are never alone.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
never push those people away, because
Mhm.
they, I mean, you say, there is a line, right? A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yep.
And you'll always need those friends, at one point or another.
Always.
And if they're there for you, never push them away. That's what Wally tells us.
Never.
And it tells the
Yes,
friend
exactly.
that even if your friend tries to push you away, be there for them. you know
Uh-huh.
Resist
Uh,
them as much as you can and be there for them. Be that annoying
yes.
friend who, just like Agnes was that nosy neighbor, remember, who was trying to help, Wanda, even when she did not require her help. That's what you need to become in a friend's life, right?
And also, Peter Parker, your personal favorite to some extent in Infinity War, when he chooses to stay rather than leave.
I think not just Infinity War, each and everywhere Spidey has been, except for his own quests, wherever there has been a crossover in comics, okay, Spidey may not have been essentially required there, okay, but he was
No,
always there to help out.
let me stop you right there. The fight sequence in Civil War, the
Yeah.
way he was talking, oh, you have a metal arm? That's so cool, dude. It would have been incomplete without Tom Holland being in it. And
Yeah.
the way he webs up Falcon, he's like, you have the right to remain silent. Oh my. Matlab,
Oh my. So yeah, coming to Wally, I'll leave it all up to you. I'm actually done explaining Wally because I think you'll do it much better.
so, guys, yes, let me take the reins now. So, Wally's character is every one of us have a friend like Wally who would annoy you, who would make sure you feel disgusting at times, but when you need them, you'll find them just within earshot. You can just give them a call and they'll be right there. And also, if I have to go into Wally's character specifically, I'll take you through the entire movie. Firstly, the first introduction to Wally is when Frank throws a party. and Beth and her boyfriend, they decide to show up
Yeah.
without being invited firstly.
Crashing,
So,
right? Crashing a party. That's what they
yeah, they were crashing a party essentially. So they knock on the door, Wally opens the door,
do.
and it was very apparent that Frank has been talking to Wally about Beth because obviously she's his niece. And
His excitement, dude.
his excitement and
Gush
the
of
cold look
positivity.
he gives, and the cold look he gives Bruce. Bruce is like, "Hi, I'm Bruce."
Amazing.
He's
Like, we fall in love with Wally then and there.
yes, it was like that's where the spark happened. And uske baad, when they go inside, they go look for Frank, and we see firstly in what I feel was that in homosexual relationships or in gay relationships, there is no boyfriend or girlfriend. There are just partners.
Yeah.
So we see a shift from, like, suppose if I was to portray a gay individual in a movie. So the shift from my masculine character to my feminine character, if I'm not a good actor, even if I'm a good actor, let's put it this way, even if I'm a good actor, it would take some effort to show that shift.
Yeah.
Like the way he says, Charlotte, don't take credit for my cooking. Never take credit. He was pissed because Charlotte took credit for his cooking.
Yes.
And again, when we see his shift, when Beth is puking her stomach out in the washroom, and when Frank is worried that can we not please do it in front of her? And Wally is like, she won't remember a thing. So that shift is so drastic and so effortless. It always works like a charm.
Exactly.
There has been 2-3 instances when Wally, already trying to portray a feminine character, has shifted to a masculine character like this, like within seconds, within milliseconds. Like first statement he gives out portrays femininity, and then he totally dwells into a masculine side.
Exactly.
And the most important part, like the part which I like the most, that guys, suppose you're going home on a road trip, right? So you tell your partner that please do not follow me, I'll go alone. And 200-300 kilometers out, you see a car has been following you. You get out of the car and there he is, while he's standing like this, wearing his eye goggles and staring at you right in your face. The way Frank loses it on the highway, that was the breaking point. I was like, dude, this movie is a killer.
Yeah.
And also when now Wally goes with them to Frank's father's funeral. And now they decide to stay in the same motel. And when Frank, and if you guys have watched the movie, I would say, for those who haven't, I will not reveal anything. I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as I can, but that revelation changed the tide of the movie.
Yeah.
Something happened. Daddy Mac's will was being read. And as soon as the will was read, Frank loses it. Frank, we see
breaking point.
That face of Frank Bledsoe twice. Only twice. Firstly, when he was confronted during his adolescent years.
Exactly.
And then when his daddy's will is being read out.
Exactly.
So that is the time when Frank tries to push Wally away. He was like, he punched him. He asked him, do you want to be known as a faggot? You know, you want this? We are going to hell. Ye wo, what not? If it was a normal relationship, it was over then and there. But still, Wally chose to stuck with him. It's not that I'm supporting what Frank did was right, but I'm supporting
Wally's emotions. I'm supporting his level of understanding. I'm supporting what he tries to portray, that the people you love, no matter how much they try to push you away, under no circumstances can you abandon them.
True. He pushes
And the way
he pushes his limits as a partner, right? As a life partner. I mean, a lot of times when we have fights in a relationship and things like that, okay, no matter whose fault, okay, sometimes we find ourselves just running away from someone or just pushing someone away, no matter what. I mean, it's just like, yaar, khatam karo na. I mean, let's just get done with it, okay? And there is no communication, there is no understanding, there is no pushing the limits as a partner. But what Wally does is, he tells us you have to sometimes push your limits, because that, I mean, the person in front of you himself or herself doesn't know how much he or she is going to need you at that hour, you know, at the darkest hour.
And also when Frank decides to seclude himself after the will was revealed. So Beth knew that Wally was the person she should go to.
Exactly.
So they are not only able to have that understanding amongst each other, but they're also able to portray that they have that kind of an understanding
to someone else.
Yes. And this is not something which is very normal. We are talking about 90s, 70s, and we're talking about a homosexual couple. And portraying that level of understanding. And also, we generally see that the people, suppose I am a conservative, normal person. And I get into normal relationship with normal women or girls, basically. And then for someone, I'm being told to portray being a gay person. Firstly, I will not be comfortable doing it. And secondly, my partner will not be comfortable with me doing it. Irrespective of what the reason is. But Frank and Wally, they firstly are very secure about their relationship. And they also understand that the things, the way it is in world, we need to give it some time to break it out to people, because it does not mean that if we are okay with something, people will be okay with something. So they have that on and off show relationship with Charlotte.
It basically, I mean, what you're trying to say is, although we accept, you know, the things between us and the things about us, sometimes people take time, and sometimes the society around us, has banned that shit, right? Has criticized it for so long that you can't just come out and shout about it. You have to take,
exactly.
You have to take into account the time they will take to accept you the way you are. I mean, that is also the sort of maturity one should have. It's not just about accepting yourself, but it's also about giving time to the people around you to accept you the way you are. You have to give them that time, and you have to have that empathy for them as to, okay, they are ignorant because they have that orthodox mindset. And the reason behind that orthodox mindset is their upbringing and the theories that they have always, listened to while growing up. So it's not entirely their fault.
Clark Kent's father used to say to Clark when he was a little child, I think it is in Man of Steel, that people at school are afraid of me. So Clark's father used to say that people are afraid of what they do not understand.
Exactly.
So this is what the concept of homosexuality, firstly, the hats off to the realism, and secondly, the for lack of a better word, the amount of sensitivity with which Paul
Yeah.
Bettany and Peter McDessie have played their respective character
Exactly.
is admirable. Is admirable.
I mean, it didn't burst out into fame as soon as it came out because the kind of marketing that went into it, the director, the writer, and the production house. I mean, the writer, director, and the production house. They knew that okay, this doesn't need to be a commercial movie. This is
Mhm.
something that has to reach the right audience, and this is something that has to touch hearts. That was the aim.
Mhm.
But I think that this movie should be watched by as many people around the world as possible because
It is going to break all the stereotypes.
it is, first of all, it is going to break the stereotypes. Okay. Second of all, the most important fact about the movie is it has each and every component of a society. Okay.
Hmm.
The part where people accept you, the part where people don't accept you, the part where there is a gray area, all right, for discussion and debate. I mean, there's black, there's white, there's gray, there's a huge spectrum, that has been shown in this movie. It's just a one and a half hour movie, and that 1.5 hour investment is one of the best investments of your life you're gonna do.
Worth it. Totally
Exactly.
worth it. Take it from me, guys. I do not watch basically movies which are based on these type of issues, or let alone these type of issues. The only franchises I ever watch, I'm not that much into movies. I only watch Marvel, DC, John
Yeah.
Wick, Ninja Turtles. That is pretty much it. And Harry Potter.
Exactly. So
That
it's
I
mostly
can-
fantasy, action, and things like that. And
Fantasy action. Yes.
and also we have to agree with the fact that those are the kind of movies that usually come out to. Like Uncle Frank kind of movies are very less in number, very rare, but they're so beautiful that there is a need of that rarity. I mean, there is a need of that unusual tone, and it's not something one should see around the year, every week. It's something that one should go to once in a while, and they have, like, when they challenge their thoughts, right? This is a movie that makes you challenge your thoughts when you feel there is no need of it, right?
and also it and also like just as you said, I realized something, that the 5 genres which I just named, they all stoke the egos of people, like Hulk smash,
Exactly.
and then you have turtle power, and then you have in John Wick is the most
Yeah. Yeah.
is the movie which will
Satisfy
give
your
you
ego to
an
another level.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Tell
That is
tell
true.
them all. I'll kill them all. Like that dude is running people over with a broken Mustang.
Exactly.
It's like you can kill 3 people with a pencil, and at
Yeah.
the same time. So that is, people always are drawn to things which stoke their ego.
Yeah.
It's like I'd rather watch something which justifies what I am.
Yeah.
Like, suppose if I like to beat people around,
Yeah.
so for petty things. So
Yeah.
street fighting movies, I'd watch, and I'd try to walk like the street fighter. I'd like to,
Yeah.
you think you're tough? I'm gonna beat your ass.
It's usually our choice of movies are ego boosters, but I think
Yes,
Uncle Frank
yes,
breaks
exactly.
that stigma in us, right?
Mm.
It challenges us. It breaks down our ego to levels,
It actually makes us question what we choose to believe.
exactly. It hurts our ego to levels we don't even know existed, I think. And that's when we choose to start bringing about that change in us, right? we have passed out our college. I mean,
Hmm.
I have
मेरा
passed out
last
of
year में
college.
bit-
तेरा
yes,
last year
passed
चल
out.
रहा है, मेरा I passed out last year, and I don't even know that I'll get another chance to be in a college, MBA or not. I don't know that yet. Okay,
Mhm.
so people would say your days of
Do
developing
you
your
want
person.
that though?
Of course, I do. I will talk about that. So I was saying
Mhm.
people would say that your days of developing your personality and your character are over, but Uncle Frank tells us it's just the start. It's just a
Yes.
start, you know. And as you asked, do you want that though? Of course I do,
Mhm.
because I think as much as job gives you stability, masters give you another chance to discover yourself. And
Mhm.
masters give, I mean, doing masters gives you that time to build yourself to a level that you couldn't have if you took up a job, because then there is the time factor, right? You don't have time
Mhm.
when you're in a job right
Mhm.
after your bachelor's. And I think this stigma should be broken, where people take up a job right after their bachelor's. the
Yeah.
the break, I mean, the drop year that people take after bachelor's, there are hardly
Mhm.
any people who do that, right? I think COVID
Mhm.
gave me a chance to do that. अगर कोविड नहीं होता तो मैं भी कहीं ना कहीं जॉब कर ही रहा होता यार. आई एम नॉट गोना लाई. ठीक है. COVID gave me that chance of taking a drop year and discovering myself, discovering new things that I can do, challenging my boundaries, right? I could have never thought last year कि मैं YouTube चैनल खोलूँगा और वीडियोस डालूँगा. I could have never thought about it. I mean, the starting of the last year. I was going towards maybe हाँ इंस्टा पे कॉमिक्स एक दो डाल दूंगा and let's see where एक panels डालूंगा and let's see where that takes us and I'll have a job with it. So
Mhm.
it was more or less a unidirectional way of life I was going towards. And this break gave me a chance to, I mean, discover directions that I didn't even know existed in me.
Yes, exactly. And I think those that time worked out brilliantly. I mean, I've heard your bits about the stand up, and even I've been following your podcast for quite some time now. So I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. I'm just trying my best to develop my the way I
हाँ,
talk.
that's all you can do, यार.
And
उससे ज़्यादा we cannot do anything.
exactly.
You can just try your best and hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. So Shashank, thank you for being here today. And
Arey, it's been my genuine pleasure, sir.
and guys, एंकर पे जाओ और रैंट ऑफ द जायंट टाइप करो और इसके पॉडकास्ट सुनो. एंड शशांक, आई वांट यू कमिंग ऑन यूट्यूब as soon as possible.
Yeah,
And
yeah, as soon as possible. I need to figure out the nitty-gritties of the
yeah,
video wala part. And
yeah.
as soon as I'm done with that, boom, I'll be there.
So I'm also gonna shift to the audio side soon. I'm also discovering about that. I mean, what are the possibilities there? So I'm gonna do that. I mean, within a month, I guess. So let's
Mhm.
work together. I'll help you with the
Yeah.
video part, whatever way I can. You help me with the audio side of it. Okay. And cheers. Thank you for coming and I had a wonderful time talking about this movie.
All right,
And
guys. Yeah.
and let's keep watching such movies and challenging our thoughts throughout.
Anji, that is the thing which is most important.
Exactly.
Like, I am not someone who is a voracious reader about literature. See, I have read Game of Thrones because I was curious, because many a times series are being diluted to a extent which people cannot even imagine. Like,
Exactly.
the people who have read DC comics
Hmm.
and have watched DC ka pura animated series,
Hmm.
I would bet
Hmm.
that people were spitting on the quality that they were producing 7-8 years ago. Like the Green Lantern was
Yeah.
absolute bullshit. See, I have nothing against DC. I have nothing for Marvel.
Mm.
What my only reason that I don't like DC is that the level of imagination that DC Comics has.
Yeah.
Even
it's not
a
being
fraction.
reflected.
Have you seen Batman: A Laughing Joke?
Yeah, I have.
Brilliant movie.
Amazing.
Brilliant movie. Like the quality of content they can produce via animations and just by comics. If they can reciprocate that content even by see, I'm so hyped up for Snyder's cut.
Yeah. I think WB messed up DC the same way Sony messed up Spider-Man universe when it came to Amazing Spider-Man and things like that. I mean, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were going in a great direction with the first movie and the first two movies, and then all of a sudden the studio came in and tried to mess up things because of their highly passionate way of thinking. Okay, made them so irrational towards the storyline and the character portrayals. Everything went to shit, right? So that is what happened with WB and the DC EU, as we call it, and the earlier DC movies that we had. I mean, wherever the directors and the storytellers have a creative freedom, we always get a masterpiece. And wherever studios controlled projects have been going on, we don't get to see that. We always get to see something so limited that we hardly appreciate it, right? That is what happens. So I think अब जाके WB में भी वो दिमाग आया है, and Sony में भी into the Spider-Verse and all के बाद थोड़ा सा वो दिमाग आया है, where they have started to give that creative freedom to directors, and James Gunn is gonna come up with Suicide Squad.
खास करके for DC, if they still do not give the creative freedom, it would be professional suicide for the industry.
Exactly. Somebody needs to tell WB that. So yeah. So guys, with this we wrap up our another episode of our podcast, and I promise you that I'll come up with 3 videos every week, and one or the other guest. Probably one podcast where only I'll be talking about things, and 2 of them where I have 1 or 2 guests around. And thank you for coming to my channel. Like, share, subscribe. I promise you that the break that I took was for certain reasons. I'll make a video on that too, and that won't happen again for a long time now. So you'll get regular entertainment and I think a bit of intellectual conversation side of me. So thank you so much for coming to my channel. Like, share, subscribe. Cheers. See you in the next episode.
Bye bye guys. See ya.
Thank you, Shashank. You.
It's been my genuine pleasure, sir. कैसी बातें कर रहे हो?